Bill 487, which requires the Kansas Bureau of Investigation to implement a statewide offender registration system for agencies who register offenders under the Offender Registration Act. And just so people know, we're the Prisoner Review Board bill, which we heard, we won't be working that today, but I suspect we will be working that on Wednesday. And there will likely be amendments proposed, or one amendment. So why don't we have Jason now give us a briefing on Senate Bill 487.
All right, thanks, Mr. Chair. So, sorry, we were just making sure the bill brief was out there and available in case you wanted to go find it on the S drive. I was having trouble finding it, so. All right, Senate Bill 487. The version you should have is as amended by Senate Committee. It was requested in the Senate Committee on Judiciary by the Kansas Sheriff's Association and eventually passed the Senate as amended 40-0 to make its way over here. The bill as amended does three things that I highlighted. First, it requires the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, the KBI, to provide a statewide offender registration system for agencies that register offenders under the Offender Registration Act. Second, it authorizes a notice to appear to be issued for a violation of the act involving non-payment of a fee. And third, it eventually will allow offenders required to register under the act to report where they work or attend school at a single point of registration. The details of that, Section 1 creates the new section that would be part of the Offender Registration Act, provides on and after July 1 of 2028 that the KBI would have this statewide offender registration system for the registering agencies to use when registering an offender. It would be essentially allow the law enforcement agency that's registering that offender to real-time deliver that information to the KBI. And that's mainly what Section 1, subsection A is about. And then subsection B, on and after July 1 of this year, registering offenders would be paying a $10 technology fee at the time that they register under KSA 224905, which is also in the bill we'll talk about in just a moment. That fee would go into the Treasury in a new fund that's created called the Offender Registration Technology Fund, which is created in Section 1. It's under the purview of the director of the KBI to administer the fund, and all expenditures would be for the purpose of maintaining that offender registration system that would have to be created by July 1 of 2028 that I was just talking about. So that's what Section 1 does. It provides a fee and then eventually creates a registration system using that fee. Section 2 then amends Section 1 on and after July 1 of 2028. And the only amendment that would be done in that 2-year time would be that the fee goes from a fixed $10 to a fee not to exceed $10 as provided in rules and regs by the KBI. So in theory, it could come down, but it could not exceed $10. So, but that's why that section's in there twice, just so you know. The one would be in 2 years from now. Then Section 3 gets into current law, amending KSA 22-4903. This is the statute concerning violations of the Offender Registration Act. If you've been around a little while, you remember that depending on what the underlying crime was, it's a person or a non-person felony, and so there's a lot of that going on, and none of that has really changed, except that the bill would say that your violation that is a misdemeanor is only a misdemeanor if your full payment of your fee is not remitted to the sheriff's office when you register, rather than waiting 15 days. And then it becomes a felony if within 20 days of that registration, 2 or more payments have not been remitted. So the current law is more looking at a 15-day period and 2 or more payments not being made, and the new law would be looking more at not making payment at the time of registration or within 20 days of that last registration. This is also where the notice to appear comes into play. So the law enforcement agency could issue a notice to appear for that charge rather than having to do the other criminal charges instead of that. I do note in the bill brief, and I'll note here, that one of the sections we're going to talk about has a fee waiver provision. So there are statutory mechanisms so that not everyone has to pay this fee. You'll have some testimony about how that actually works in practicality, and there's some limitations to that. But in theory, indigent folks should be able to have the fee waived and then not have a crime connected to the fact that they're indigent. But it gets a little complicated, unfortunately. So you'll get some testimony on that, and I'll just leave it at that. Two more sections, and then I'll let you loose here. Section 4 is 224904. That is the statute about what is required for registering an offender. Right now, you're required to register where you reside, maintain employment, or attend school. So up to 3 different places, potentially, if those are 3 different counties. The bill changes that to on and after July 1 of 2028, you would register at one single point, because it would be real-time reported to the KBI. So rather than reporting in multiple places, you just report to one place and it gets to the KBI. So that is the eventual goal of the bill between Section 1 and Section 4, is to do that by July 1 of 2028. Section 5 then is the statute about the duties of the offender, and the only thing really touched here is the payment of your fee. Right now, you're required to pay $20 each at each point of registration, and what is added is that technology fee from Section 1 of $10 per registration, essentially. So you'll be paying $30 to register instead of $20. And then on and after July 1 of 2028, you would only do that in the one place that you reside. That would be where you register, that would be where you pay your fee, and you would only pay once. But for a couple of years, you might be paying multiple fees, and that is also what happens under current law. So with that, I think I've covered all the sections. I'd be happy to answer questions if I can.
I have a couple questions to start. I'm looking at the neutral testimony from bids in asking these questions, and I just wanted to clarify for myself. So under the bill, you would, whenever you were registering, you'd pay a $20 fee and then a $10 technology fee, is that right?
Mr. Chairman, and that was some of the testimony I was mentioning that you might receive. Right now, you pay that $20 fee, and the statute is not perfectly clear that you pay it in each location, but that's what we're told, is that often, you know, if you have to register in 3 places, essentially you're paying $60 instead of $20. And the way the fee is just added on, if a local jurisdiction is requiring you to pay $20, they're going to require you to pay $30, at least for this 2-year period. So
I'm asking under the bill, you would pay $30 essentially when you register.
yes, so you're going to pay, at least in one location, you're going to at least pay $30, and it's possible you'll pay that in more than one location, to Bids's point. It's possible you would
under the bill, why would you do that under the bill?
Because the statute speaks to paying the fee where you register.
Right.
So in some places, you register and just say you live in Shawnee County, but you work in Jackson County, just as an example for right here where we are. Some jurisdictions, you would pay $20 in each county.
But that's currently.
Correct.
I'm talking about under the bill. You're just
Stays the same.
But you would just do it once. It would be,
Not until 2028.
okay, but
Right. So
eventually.
right. So under current law, you pay $20, and you may pay another $20, although some jurisdictions don't do it. We're kind of hit and miss. And if you're paying $20, you'd pay $30.
Yeah.
But then on July 1 of 2028, when the new system is implemented,
Right.
you would only register where you live, where you reside, and you would only pay one time. That is the eventual goal.
Right.
But there's some nuance to what would happen in the meantime, and that's what I thought you were getting at.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
my apologies.
And the other thing is the indigency affidavit. As I understand what the bids is saying, they're saying that if the person who's registering, if their criminal case is ended, there's no judge that has jurisdiction to waive that fee. And they're suggesting that we take care of that in the bill. Is that, but speaking now as the bill is presented, do you see that as a problem? That is to say, the indigent person says I don't have a judge to present my affidavit to make the waiver decision.
Mr. Chairman, yes, our office is aware that there's some case law that indicates outside of that 3-year window, right? So you have an indigency finding while your criminal case is going on, but then 3 years later, when you need to renew that under the statute as it currently stands, who do you renew that with? That's a problem in current law. It's not addressed in the bill. We're not actually sure how to address it. There have been numerous groups that have looked at this issue, and I still haven't seen language that would actually fix the problem, but we're happy to work on it if somebody can help us figure out how to get at that issue. But yes, it becomes a jurisdictional problem. What court has jurisdiction to make that finding?
Okay, thank you. Representative Mosley has a question, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You kind of asked a couple of my questions, but to be clear, so this bill initially puts why am I so loud today? This bill initially seems like it's putting a financial barrier. I know that there's people who are, I don't know what the standard is for being indigent, but I think it's probably pretty low in the grand scheme of things, and the average American can't afford a $500 unexpected expense. So in this bill, someone who lives, let's say they live in Shawnee County, they're attending Peasley Tech in Douglas County, and they work at the casino up in Jackson County. Now they're potentially paying an additional $30 for hopes in the future that this will be a streamlined process. Am I understanding that correctly?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just say that's possible. I can't speak to each of those 3 sheriff's offices and whether they're charging those fees, and I don't know if anyone else can, but there's a possibility you'll be paying an extra $30 when you register, if you're registering in 3 different places.
So just so I'm clear, there's a law that we're writing that we do not understand how it's going to impact the people who are going to have to be part of this law. And I have one more follow-up question, just to make sure I'm understanding correctly also for the I looked up the Kansas offenders registry. So it's going to include people who have drug charges, correct? So people with drug charges are also included in that?
So, Mr. Chairman, under current law and representative, so we have multiple levels of offenders that are on the registry, but sex offenders, violent offenders, and drug offenders as well.
Okay.
And then folks who are just required to register by either plea or court order, right, that are kind of other. But yes, so drug offenders have their own reporting requirements.
Okay.
And they would pay the technology fee wherever they register.
Okay.
But they register less frequently than some other offenders. And thankfully, we've got law enforcement here to answer a little bit more in detail about how they do this in the real world. But yes, drug offenders, I think they register quarterly, where they actually have to appear. So 4 times a year, they're paying a fee.
Oh, you have to pay a fee every single time you appear? Okay, that's different.
Each time you register, yes, which is usually, for most offenders, I understand, is quarterly, so 4 times a year. And that's, I think, where BIDS comes up with their $120 figure. Essentially, you're paying $120 to register as an offender for the year if you're registering in one place under the bill. I think that's how you get to 120.
Thank you very much. I have one more question for research, if I may. Can you look up to see what level of drug offense the average person who has to be a registered offender, if there's like a certain level that requires them to be that? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get you the list of statutes. It's specific offenses that you're convicted of, particularly manufacturing is one. I don't believe you have to register for possession, for example, but we'll get you the list. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Any further questions? None. Okay, we'll now start the conferees. Sheriff Easter, I believe, is our first conferee. Welcome to committee. Thank you for coming.
Office, I'm sorry, representing the Kansas Sheriff Association. So I'm going to start out my testimony explaining some of the questions that you had. First off, to be a registered drug offender, it is not possession whatsoever. It is the sale and manufacture. Secondly, when we're talking about the fees, currently offenders have to register once a quarter, $20 a quarter. What we're asking for on this to help offset the cost that KBI says is part of this cost is the $10 fee to help cover that. So you're going from $80 a year to $120 a year, because it's $10 a quarter. From a standpoint of indigency, there's a lot of people that apply for indigency within the jurisdiction that they live, and they do receive that. The last piece of that is it is imperative to understand that, you know, a pack of cigarettes costs $10.45 a pack. We're talking $10 for every quarter to pay for this technology, and then I will get into why that technology is so important. We have worked on this bill for several years with the KBI. Currently, we operate under KSORT, which was a free program in the 90s that was given to the KBI to do offender registration. Also understand, KBI, all they do with offender registration is they house KSORT. They do nothing, have nothing to do with offender registration. That's all on the sheriffs. It's a very basic system that assists sheriffs with registering, tracking, and holding offenders accountable. Since that time, technology has expanded. Currently, 22 sheriffs have a specific company that they currently work with and utilize their software because of how much more efficient and streamlined the program is. These 22 sheriff's offices still must enter the same information into KSORT because it's two separate programs. KBI has to have the information, so we enter into our private company's information, and then we enter it into KSORT as well. So we're having to enter it twice right now. Under KSORT, once you enter the information, it also has to go into NCIC, which we have to do. The program doesn't do it. So we got to enter it twice if we only use KSORT. By going to an outside company, that is streamlined, that enters into NCIC itself. So we only have to enter the information one time with a private company. There is a cost to move offender registration to an outside vendor. And that's when we talk about what I just explained. The $10 fee, additional fee for 2 years to the offenders every quarter, which would go from $80 to $120 for those 2 years to implement this. And this is because of the KBI, what they'll testify to here in a little bit, as the expense to move to an outside vendor. One of the complaints we receive from registered offenders is if they live in one county, work in another county, and go to school in a third county, they must register in each county. That means currently, right now, they pay $20 for every county that they have to register in. So that 80 can go to 160, or it can go up higher than that if they live, work, and go to school in a different county. This bill would stop that. They'd register one time in whatever county they live in. They'd register, they'd say where they work at, they would say where they go to school at, it would go to those other counties, and they would notify them, and at that point, they would be fine to go where they need to go. Some of the things that is the drawbacks of the current system. Current KBI system is an antiquated system built in the 1990s. Current system does not adequately meet the needs of sheriffs to track and monitor compliance. Requires redundant entries into data or different data systems for many registrations. Does not include automated communications, alerts, cross-referencing between sheriff's office. Does not have a built-in address verification process. Current system looks like the old teletypes. If any of you all have been around what teletypes look like, it comes out as a teletype. Somewhere in there is the updated information that we need. With the system that 22 sheriffs currently use, if there's something that is a change in that registered offender, it immediately notifies the jurisdiction that has the registration. We get, because there's whole states, just like what we're proposing, that's on this system. We also have sheriff's offices throughout the nation that are on this system. So just recently, we had an individual that did not tell their parole officer they were going to Oklahoma, got arrested in a county in Oklahoma. We immediately got notified. So we could put a hold on them, and we went down and picked them up. KSORT does not allow us to do that whatsoever. So it does not share information with other states as well. During Halloween is when we see, especially the sexual registration, aspect of it is most used. People log on to our system. They can see where sex offenders live, so their kids, sorry about that. I have type 2 diabetes, so it's something I must have drank on the way up. So sorry about that. So during Halloween is when we see our system used the most by the public. They'll log on, see where sexual offenders live at, so they can have their kids avoid those certain residences. Ksort does not do that for us. That's through the other system that we have. The benefits to Kansas is enhanced tracking, data sharing, accurate address validation, homeless offender monitoring, geocoding. Geocoding is what I just talked about with the Halloween stuff, that we can geocode around those particular houses and they show up in our system. Centralized data hub, advanced investigative tools, one entry point of registration. And if we could get, or if this committee approves and then it gets voted on, the statewide implementation would reduce workload and improve data accuracy, streamline NCIC submissions via one unified platform, boost offender compliance, accountability, and enhance public alerts, foster agency collaboration and seamless offender tracking, create a better platform with immediate update to information. So with that, I will stand for any questions when the time is appropriate. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and have the next conferee and then ask questions. Thank you. Mr. Stewart.
Chairman Lewis, members of the committee, thank you for having me today. My name is Bob Stewart. I'm the executive officer for the KBI. We stand in strong support of Senate Bill 487. As Sheriff Easter mentioned, this has been a problem for a while. It's been something we're working on. I want to give you a little bit of the backstory. The KSort system, the Kansas Sexual Offender Registry tool, was a free tool given to us by the FBI more than a decade ago. It's well past its obsolescence date for all the reasons the sheriff talked to you about, and a few I'll mention as well. Director Mativi is on record as calling it, and I quote, awful. When he first came into his position, one of the first things that I know that the sheriffs talked to him about was the inadequacy of the current system. Through the last couple of years, we've worked with the sheriffs to come up with a solution, and what we believe is the solution is Senate Bill 487 that's now in front of you. It directs the KBI to implement a modern system. The old system, for all the reasons you just heard about, simply doesn't work anymore. It's not fair to the sheriffs to have to double enter things. We have some sheriffs that are doing manual entries. We have some sheriffs that are doing electronic entries. It's difficult for the KBI to manage all that and to get the data back out as appropriate, both to the sheriffs and to the public that try to get on the KBI webpage and see where offenders are in their neighborhoods. Sometimes we've had some gap coverage because of the limitations of the old awful system. The new system will allow a whole lot better electronic submission, coordination, clarity across all of the channels, not only within the state, but as Sheriff Easter mentioned, with our partners in Missouri, they use the system, and in a lot of other sheriffs across the country. 22 sheriffs in Kansas are already using the system. They've determined on their own that they simply had to go to it. We recommend, and after we've worked with the sheriffs, our folks went out and did some travel around the country to see what other systems might be available. And we're recommending, as the bill notes, a software as a service system, a cloud-based system that will automatically update, automatically provide the newest level of detail as we move through. Now, while there are key benefits to that, one of the things that I know Representative Mosley mentioned is worry about the cost of this. And when you look at the fiscal note, it's a little bit confusing. We had no other real option but to put down in that fiscal note that we believe it's about $1.4 million to implement this system. It's an expensive system for startup reasons, but then also to maintain. We knew, and in talking to some of you and your Senate counterparts, that a $1.4 million general fund request was going to be looked upon with some degree of skepticism, particularly this year. So we were thinking about the way to do this. One of the options that other states have used and that we are presenting to you is that cost be borne by the offenders. And that's why you see some changes in the dates in the amended language. As we thought through how that should look, it's going to take a while for that $10 per registrant to build up enough money to start acquiring and dealing with the expenses that are the front side expenses. we talked with the sheriffs, and we all agreed that it would be a couple years. That's why there's a 2028 date in there for that fund to be able to build itself up, for us to be able to then expend appropriately and get a system online. So you'll see a $1.4 million fiscal note for SGF funds, but what we believe the correct way to do it is by requesting it through the increased fees to the offender. We realize also that there's that potentially for the couple of years might mean a little bit higher fee for some of those offenders that work and live in different places. But once it's online, it will be only a one-stop shop. So where they live, they will be able to go and pay just once rather than in multiple counties. That fixes it for them. It also fixes it for us. One of the interesting things I learned when I was thinking about this and when people were briefing me was that right now, we certainly have a number of offenders who are homeless. It's very difficult for them to put in addresses, and it's very difficult for our sheriffs to track them. A new system will allow geolocation, as the sheriff mentioned, so that we can see, they can put, hey, I live here at this homeless encampment somewhere, and it's easier for them rather than having to come back in every couple of weeks when they move to justify where they're at. It's helpful for them, and it's certainly helpful for the community around them that wants to know, where they are. I had just thought of something as the testimony went on regarding the questions regarding the indigent waiver and how we solve that problem. It's been, the last time I actually practiced law was 1996. It may have been a while since I thought about it from a prosecutor and defense attorney perspective, but wouldn't it apply that, let's say somebody comes in and doesn't pay. They're no longer under the jurisdiction of a court because it's been several years. So they might try and say, well, I don't know where to go get my indigent waiver. Is it possible that in the process of charging them now for not paying them, now you've got a judge sitting there? And that judge can certainly say, yes, you are guilty of not paying it, but you provided me evidence of indigency, and I'm going to waive that now, and we're going to dismiss the charge. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's something that's been thought of. But certainly that feels like a place where there's going to be a judge sitting in that pending new prosecution. Again, something I just thought of, haven't worked through it, and certainly haven't socialized that with anybody that might be thinking about it, but I just put that out there. With that, I will conclude my testimony and stand for questions as you feel appropriate.
Thank you. I believe that concludes our proponent testimony. Is there anyone else on WebEx or in the audience that wants to speak as a proponent? Seeing none, let's open up for questions. All right, we'll start with Representative Smith.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. KBI, can I talk to you? Now, are you going to buy this technology now, or are you going to wait till 2028 to do that?
We are hopeful that we can use some of our current fee funds to start that process. We don't have the capability to do it and just write a check for it right now, so to speak. But we're hopeful that we can begin that process, begin the RFP process where we're identifying and acquiring the software.
This committee is just looking at possibly building a new prison in Hutchinson, and the price has just doubled in the last 2, 3, 4 years. So I'm just afraid if we don't do it now, it's going to double on you also. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question. If the system costs more than the fees that are generated, who pays for what's left?
We've tried to run the numbers as best we can. We believe that based upon the number of offenders that are currently in system and what we would project in the future, that $10 fee will cover our ongoing costs.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up, but if it doesn't, I assume that would come out of the KBI's budget, or?
Yes, sir.
All right, Representative Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in your scenario where like we don't really understand like how someone gets in front of a judge because they're poor and they may be working, in your ideal situation, they would have to have a barrier of now having to be in front of a judge also?
I would far from call it ideal, certainly.
Yeah.
I can't think of another potential, and I know both the revisor and the sheriffs and I have all sort of talked about what that might look like. I just wonder whether or not, as a court of last resort, that new court would be able to say, well, yes, clearly you are indigent. We're going to waive this fee that you owe now and any in the future.
Okay. And this is making the assumption that there will be a timely, like they'll be able to get in front of a judge in a timely manner, or, because if, I'm like, my concern is that there's a lot of pieces that haven't been solved, and, you know, and I know offenders are not like the most sympathetic group of people, but, you know, for the people who, but just my concern is that there's just parts of this bill that has not been fully fleshed out at all. And then my question is, why would someone be required, if they, let's say, for instance, they live in Shawnee County, I'm going to use Shawnee County as an example because that's where we currently are. Why is it that they just can't just have like a one-time fee saying that they paid towards the fee? Because it seems like we're trying to build something off the backs of people who already are going to deal with, you know, record underemployment or unemployment. They have a lot of things, like they have, you know, stigmatism in the society, and we're putting on the backs of them. Like, I'm all for something that's going to streamline this so that hopefully in the future, they will be able to only have to go to a one-stop shop. But why is it that they have to pay in every single county for this $10 fee versus like this being a one-time fee for them per like their home county, for instance?
Two fundamental pieces, ma'am. First, that the Offender Registration Act, as it currently reads, requires registration in the locations where all three of those happen.
Yeah.
The fee part, though, I think lays in there because that's a cost that the sheriffs are bearing right now. As Sheriff Easter mentioned, hey, he's got to have an administrative person there available every day for people to walk in to make those filings. Then they've got to, with this old awful system that we have, manually enter it twice. So that $20 fee would, I mean, if it's just paid for in one location, potentially those other two sheriffs are having to eat that out of their budget somewhere else.
And one more question, if I may. And is there a risk that this fee just becomes, because I'm looking at the fact that this does not pay for itself, is there a risk that this fee just becomes a permanent thing where now people are continuously having to pay this additional technology fee, folks who probably can afford it the least, while fees are more than likely going to increase at some point in the future?
I don't believe there's a sunset provision on the fee, ma'am. I think it's the $10 fee is a continuing fee.
Okay, I will let someone else ask a question. Thank you.
I think Sheriff Easter may have something to add to what we were just discussing.
Thank you, Chair. Jeff Easter with the Kansas Sheriff's Association. So in Sedgwick County, the way that what you're discussing works is individuals who are no longer on parole, answering to the crimes that they committed, if they are believe that they're indigent, they submit a packet to the clerk of the district court, and it's assigned to a judge. So they don't have to pick up a new case to get a judge or anything like that. What happens is they'll come into us, and they'll say, I can't pay for this, I'm indigent. We give them the information to go file for indigency, and then we do not charge them, nor do we pursue, or we don't charge them the fee, nor do we pursue the charges until a judge rules if they're indigent or not.
Thank you. Can I ask a question to research real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Can you look up to see what is the income threshold for someone to be considered indigent? Thank you.
Representative Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the KBI, would this new system also be available for non-reporting agencies such as like wildlife and parks and other agencies that run into offenders so they can check their status and see?
That's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to that. Yes, Sheriff Easter nods yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just follow up on that. I didn't quite understand the question or the answer. Just could you explain
I'll let
what
Sheriff.
you're talking about there?
So as I took it, the question, Jeff Easter with Kansas Sheriff's Association, as I took it, the question was, if it's a law enforcement agency such as police departments, they don't do offender registration, but they can sign up for this program and be able to research in that program, and it doesn't cost them any money. So wildlife and parks could, any police department can, those type of things.
And is that possible now? And the system's just so antiquated, that's really...
I don't think police departments are signed up for case sort.
We'll let you have one more.
Thank you, very benevolent of you. This is for the KVI guy. My question for you is, there's like a sole vendor, or will there be an RFP type of situation to implement this?
Mr. Chair, ma'am, yes, the intent is to RFP it appropriately pursuant to Kansas statute.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. I don't believe we have any opponents. We had a neutral from bids, so that's written. I think it's written only unless they're here and want to speak. So I'd encourage people to look at that written testimony. All right, I think we're done for the day. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.